This is a Headgum podcast.
I was in Nashville, and I did TV. I did 2 p.m. TV in Nashville.
Hold on.
And all these people kept coming over right before, and they said, "Please do not curse." And they kept again and again. I've never been warned so many times.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you guys particularly nervous for my work?" And they said, "Because we're a 2 p.m. show, this is the most expensive fines you can get. If anyone curses, they get fined $50,000. And because I guess kids are coming home from school, it is just the prime time that the FCC will sue them. And I guess the machine to delay it by 5 seconds is $150,000. They can't afford it. They can't afford anything. These studios are dead.
Yeah.
They need to let them go. Why am I on the show?
Why are they letting those people do that?
Yeah. And there's a part of me that goes like, don't tell me this is really enticing. 50, I could. And they can't sue
Would there
me.
be any blowback for you? There wouldn't be any blowback for you.
I don't think they'd invite me back.
Oh no!
I don't think there'd be anything to invite me back to. I don't think 50,000 they'd be done.
No, they wouldn't. They
Nashville would have to
can't sue
close.
you because you wouldn't be in any sort of deal with the FCC.
Yeah, but it's crazy that they have to take that risk for any human being that goes on. Like they had someone, they messed up one thing and oh shit, $50,000.
Yeah.
Is it okay? So is that the same? Is that across the board, like on SNL? Like if someone swears, would it be $50,000 for
I said
that
warm
too?
up 10 minutes before we get into SNL.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. But no, it just happened.
No, but like
you were there when
when Ego did Miss Eggy.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then the
Did everyone
audience
go,
did it. So like if
I mean, Colin and Jay and Ego did. They all went, "Oh no!"
yeah,
but it wasn't like, it's not good.
I wonder what the fine is though.
For SNL.
Yeah,
I don't know.
11:30. And I mean,
11:30 Saturday night. Seems like it would be not prime. Like the cost would be less.
yeah.
I don't know.
But it's a big platform.
I don't know if that's even how it works. I wonder if the FCC it could. To me, that sounds like something a producer would say to scare you out of cursing too.
Sure.
I do what producers say because I know that there is a grain of truth to whatever they're saying. So it's like always just do what they say, but know that they're probably lying a little bit.
Now I think I have a good filter for two reasons. I think divorced parents in one house where I couldn't really curse. So I think I have a switch in my head that's pretty strong. And younger siblings.
Right.
Where I just think I'm decent. Can you turn off cursing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about you?
I mean, I think I can when it comes to if something's live. I think I can. Like if the stakes are high enough, I can stop myself.
What was her name on SNL? That poor Jenny
Poor,
Slate.
she's fine. She's doing fine.
She's doing great, but that had to have been awful. Do you know this Jenny Slate?
No, what happened?
she said fuck.
She said fuck in like her first SNL sketch.
Oh, really?
Pull up that.
The joke was like, I think instead of fucking, it was frickin'. And so she had to keep saying frickin'. And then at one point, she's like,
mean challenge.
Fucking.
Yeah.
Something like that. And it's like one of her first things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
That's good. Okay, yeah, that's tough. How many was she on for one season?
Yeah.
One season. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Okay, let's see this one. This is a classic.
Change the frickin' channel.
Slate was taking part in a sketch
Oh,
alongside
God.
Kristen Wiig when, out of nowhere, a line that should have read, quote, "and I love you for that," was delivered as, quote, "and I fucking love you for that."
You freaking just threw an ashtray full of butts at my head. You know what? You stood up for yourself, and I fucking love you for that.
Slate immediately realized her error.
I hate that
The mortified
fucking TikTok
reaction
had to censor
I
the
know.
fucking thing.
I know.
I fucking hate
was
this
on
shit.
Slate's very first
That's good.
episode as a feature.
Damn. Well, it worked out.
Yeah. She's fine. Yeah.
Rosebud, one of the earliest things that you worked at LOL Comedy Club. I worked at LOL
Yes,
Comedy
we
Club
did.
different times.
Yes, we
Very
did.
different times. And I hope I can share the story where they added the family show.
They did.
And that's when you left LOL.
Was that it? Was that I
The
remember
story
them-
that I was told is that so they added this family show where you're not supposed to curse. And listen, you walk into that room thinking you're not going to hear cursing at your own risk.
Well,
That is-
also, if you bring your family in there, you should be checked into a rehab center.
It's a crazy place to take a family.
Yeah, I think that was mainly my. I was like, who's bringing their family?
And listen, we all fucked up. I mean, we might get chastised now. It's not like you were going to get fired.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to be clean.
Yeah.
And you were not treated well at this club. No one was paid or paid very little, and it was
Paid on time.
Paid on time. And I'm sure I got the better piece of it. I got the soft unionization of the comics, got some rights. But you, at least what I was told is that you wrote a scathing email.
A very strongly worded email.
And
Yes.
I was like, it was so bad because it's also a new comic, so I was still like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's so badass.
Well, I knew writing it that I was like, this doesn't matter because even if I write it, I know I'm never going to work there again. So it was like kind of my way of making sure that I never went back because it was like
Yes.
one of those places where if you just kept working there, you could I would watch people age there in a way that was like really concerning. And it was like doing comedy with like the ghosts of comedy's future.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, there has to be a day where I just leave, you know? And I, at that point in my life, did not know how to leave without hating a place or sort of burning it to the ground. You know what I mean? Which is not what I did. I wrote a strongly worded email, which in my mind was like, ooh, but
Sure. My method's no better. I just say shit on a podcast after the fact. And I get stressed for them. Cisco, who was there when I was there, he told me, he said,
love
like,
Cisco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where when I first got there, they were brutally mean.
Yes.
And I was there on my laptop. I was very annoying.
Yes.
I had dreams. And Cisco said, if you're still here in 3 years, I'm going to sneak in. And when you're not looking, I'm going to put a shotgun to the back of your head and shoot. And I remember thinking, thank you. Please do that if that's the case.
Cisco's amazing because he would say that to you. He would say that to new comics. He was the only one there that it was almost like a Shawshank situation where he was like red, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where he would be like, you're going to get the fuck out of here, or he'd be like, it's too late for me, but you can get out, that kind of a thing. And so I remember just being like, I wouldn't have known to get out of there if it weren't for Cisco.
I've talked about before, but there's some parts of like bullying or seniority that I think is good that you learn to respect, you learn the system, you learn your place, and then you fight to earn your stripes. I think it's important to have that. And I feel like it's gone in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of like, if you start out at the cellar, but you have a big fucking podcast, you're really cool. Like you're very quickly, the older people, they can't help it. They're looking out for they have a family to feed or whatever. And that has messed up the ecosystem of seniority and bullying. And I think we need some back.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there should be more punching up in comedy.
Sure.
And
who were you bullied when you first started? Were there any comics that were harsh to you?
Yeah, but I can't it never really registered. I think I was just like kind of a delusional comic in the I think in a way that's necessary where you're like,
sure.
But for sure there was like,
you thought you were really good.
No, I didn't. That was different. All I'm saying is, if they were being mean to me, I considered it like, oh, they like me.
Oh, sure.
Which is like, that was more of like where it came from, was like you bullied the people that you liked. And now I think the difference is that there's so many people in comedy that we don't like, that we don't feel like we can bully because we can't do it in a way that's like fun.
Yeah.
Like we would bully the people that we were like, we like this person, even though they're younger and they've got like,
Sure.
It
but
just
that's
doesn't.
What we need. Ken Boyd would come into, Ken Boyd?
I do know that name. And I feel like if I saw him, I would know.
Yeah.
I know who.
Skinny black guy, very charismatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would come in the room, and from the back, if I was not doing well, he would say, boo, N-word, boo, from the back of the room. And there was something, I don't know, I look back on it fondly.
Yeah.
I just look back on it fondly.
Yeah. Well, whenever a white person gets called the N-word,
Sure.
you know, you get a little sort of butterfly in your stomach.
So, were you always that person that would write the email, that would stand up for the thing that you, this is bullshit, this family show? Were you always that person?
I've never been good at like accepting. Okay, I can accept rules, right? If I'm like getting paid, you know, but like I wasn't getting paid enough to show this person any sort of respect. Like I was like, we're holding up a crime that you're committing. You know what I mean? Like without us, your whole scam doesn't work. So you don't get to tell us what to say is basically the point I was trying to make. I was like, without us doing whatever the hell we want, which is the only reason that any of us are there, we're not gonna, no. Like you can't put like FCC rules on your place when you're selling $8 waters out of the tap. Like I would do so poorly at that place that I would go home and have to Yelp review it. Just to see the Yelp reviews, to know that I was performing for people who were being actively ripped off and knew it. So that I didn't blame myself fully. Just to know I was like, oh, they were literally paying $8 for a solo cup full of sink water.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And and they were told that I was going to be Tina Fey or Kevin Hart. Yeah. Which, regardless if they don't know that Tina doesn't do stand-up, you know, they're just like wandering around New York having a good time. I'm like, we are helping this guy run a scam, and he thinks that we're going to like abide by rules. That it's like, shut up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you couldn't even do this without us.
I wasn't paid, I don't think, for the first full year. I did like every check spot I could. Mm-hmm. But it was like $4 a night.
He did not pay you for check spots?
No, not when I was there.
That's crazy.
When I started hosting, I would get $40 a show, but hosting was like, Kareem Green would come off stage and be like, man, I did 25 minutes up there. And I was like, yeah, you did 25 minutes on the 1 a.m. show. What are you doing, man? Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Right. Like, come on.
Oh, and it'd be like, you'd have the worst audience member, but you'd hear a rumor that this guy was throwing money on the stage. And you're like, then don't kick him out, please.
Yeah.
Some guy, you come with stuff $50 and you're like, oh my God, I did it.
Yeah.
I made money as a comic, but I got so much stage time.
I know.
God, I got so much stage time. That
was really the value of it, was like, okay, I can do 5 shows a night in the same place. I don't have to run all around the city. It's 5 different shows and I can work out my material. That is the only reason that I would go to that place.
I stuck around all the way to when he lost the club and then he moved it to his... They said it was his gay bar, and I walked in and it was the same decor as LOL, but Lil Nas X was playing on the TV,
right?
And I remember, you know, I have some, you know me, I have some like sick pride where people are like, you're at the Cellar and you're still going to LOL, and I was like, yeah, that's who I am.
Yeah.
And then there was some speaker feedback thing, and like I feel like couldn't hear it in my left ear for an hour, and I said, I can't do this anymore.
You gotta be done.
Yeah.
I can't do
enough
this anymore.
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
This is the downside.
1, 2, 3. Downside. You're listening to The Downside.
The Downside.
With
Love
Gianmarco
that.
Soresi.
That's our friend Douglas Goodhart, guest co-host sometimes.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Welcome to The Downside. This is a place where we complain, we get negative, we don't just pretend things are good. We can be honest about being pieces of shit, our family, our life, the world. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. 2 bonus episodes every month and footage from our live episodes on the road. We
road.
grew up not that far from each other. I grew up in Potomac, Maryland.
You did?
I did.
Holy shit, did I know? I knew this.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I knew about you.
Really?
What was funny is Paige, our producer, I mean, she's been sending. She
Paige,
must have
if you're
been
listening too long, like, no offense to you, but like,
I know
pages and pages of research.
No, Paige, I'm apprecitive.
You guys are getting a packet.
We're getting a packet, and then like after reading 30 minutes, I'm like, and that was Rosebud's mom. And it's like it's beautiful.
It's
but
beautiful.
It's more
and
one of these things where
I didn't used to get included
We started adding
we
him.
could go back to that. I mean, I open these things and I'm like, good Lord. Oh my God.
I love him. I read him.
It's amazing. I mean, it's incredible. She does so
But
much
how
work.
else would I know? Potomac, I used to talk about it as the 29th richest zip code. I've never written a good joke about Potomac in my life. I find it so boring and dull and cultureless and nothing.
Yeah.
But yours was the third. McLean, Virginia is the third richest. So you making me feel lower middle class over here.
Well, yeah, you're a peasant. You're a goddamn peasant to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Did you? My touch point for that area. Were you cognizant of the DC sniper when it happened?
I was.
What grade were you?
I don't remember.
Yeah?
I don't remember, but I do remember like seeing it on the news. I remember seeing it on the news and it being like a big topic of conversation with my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't like cognizant of it.
Yeah.
You know?
I was they canceled all outdoor activities. And I was about to fail PE. So that was very...
For how long were things canceled?
Oh, so he saved a life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was about a month, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think he killed... Could we
But
look it
wasn't
up?
he just shooting
killed
people on the roads?
It was random. I just remember the one that freaked me out. It was like a woman who was reading a book at a gas station.
Oh,
yeah.
And he just shot her.
Well, if you're reading a book at a gas station.
That is crazy.
He probably was like, let me put her out of her misery.
That's
he's
sad.
like,
That was the one she was reading, going like, I hope someone shoots me in the fucking head right now.
I'm like,
It took place over 3.5
he's like,
weeks.
thank you.
3.5 weeks. And yeah, it was scary. It was scary because it was so random. It was totally random. And then the police announced, they said he's in a white van.
Yeah.
And that was all they had for a while.
Right.
And all the vans are white.
Yeah.
I don't even remember that. I remember it just being like a regular car. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like my memory of it is so like foggy.
Sure. What's our age difference?
I don't know.
What year were you born?
I'm not going into that. What
See,
are you,
people
nuts?
say, okay, but let me ask
I'm a
this.
woman
but
in
let me ask this.
entertainment.
But let me ask this. I understand that. But like it would help to know. I understand. People say that to me.
Yeah.
And I go, but it would be good for us to know.
Why do you say
No,
what
it would
era.
be nice to say it. But I work in entertainment.
Who was president when you were a kid?
Are you fucking kidding? You're not gonna. You think I haven't found workarounds for all of this? Also, and I've gotten to the point now where like, if I've been backed into a corner enough, I'll like lie, but I've lied different ages to so many people that now I really don't even know what to say to people.
Yeah,
when
I
they're
know what
like,
you mean.
like I've lied where people have asked for my birthday. For festivals, you know, to like book a flight, and I'll lie about my birthday.
Really?
To book a flight, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it? It's totally. It's a reasonable thing, of course.
Yeah.
Does it annoy? Do you just go, that's a fucking business we live in? Do you ever think you'll reach an age where you go, fuck it, I'm going to say it? Do you really? How do you keep the illusion? At a certain point.
There's no like illusion really to keep if you just don't talk about your age.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like you can say you can speak to your age without saying it. You know? You can just talk about like what you're going through.
Yeah.
And it can, reach. I also feel on a certain level that, and this is more specific to women, that they take age and they go, oh, she is unrelatable at this point. You know?
I see.
Whereas like men just get more and more relatable as they age.
Sure.
And women just get like, I don't know, like erased slowly. They just are like, their voice stops mattering, which is, it's crazy because I hear so many, and I remember being this woman like in my 20s being like, I just don't really experience sexism. I just don't know what that is, you know? And then as I got older, and especially when I was pregnant, I mean, that was like the most political thing that ever fucking happened to me because I was like, oh, this shit is unfucking fair, you know? And that was when it started like really...
What hit you when you were pregnant that you were
just
like,
the lack of understanding around women's medicine, for one, was like drastically like, it was shocking to me, you know?
Yeah.
That like my pelvis split before I had a baby. It just like split. and that's just considered normal. And it's like I couldn't find anything about it except for on Reddit.
Yeah.
And when I asked the doctor about it, she was like, yeah, it'll just go back after you have the baby. And I was like, yeah, but in the meantime, I got a fucking barrel of loose bones in my pelvis and I can't walk.
What do you heard? Did you hear a sound? Did you just feel pain? Like, what does that mean?
It was basically, so your joints loosen up when you're pregnant, right? To make room for your baby.
Yeah.
And also just like, it's like why women's feet grow when they're pregnant. It's like the ligaments and the joints loosen. And so they, your bones just like
spread. By the way, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about the feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when your joints are loose, there's one joint that connects your, how the pelvis looks like two elephant ears?
Yes.
And then there's one joint that connects them.
Yeah.
And that joint loosened to the point where it just came apart. And so I couldn't get out of a car without like going like both my legs together. Like I couldn't
wow.
I had to like hold my hips together. And then it was just this shooting pain that felt like my pelvis was being ripped apart.
God.
And it was like, and I walked in and I said to the doctor, I was like, this is actually untenable. Like I can't live my life. And she was like, oh, just, she handed me like an ace bandage and she was like, just like wrap it around your hips. And I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Or what year
the
is
old
it?
duct tape method.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that feels
just
old
smooch
school.
it all together.
It was crazy.
If that doesn't work, we got some
crazy.
leeches in the back. We kind of just stick them on your arm.
It was fucking insane. And it felt like my vagina was going to fall out. I was like, the whole thing just felt so fucking medieval that I was like, this is insane.
Now, why do you think that it is so not? Do you think it's like the doctors didn't seem to even know about it or care about it, or they just go, it's a women's problem? Like, why? So many people have been pregnant in the world.
It's the lack of research is what it really comes down to. Like, even I'm talking to a doctor who knows everything there is to know, you know, and she doesn't have answers. So that means that there's not enough research. And I think there's not enough research because women go in and they're made to feel like they're being dramatic.
Sure.
They're made to feel like what they're experiencing is normal. So it's like a cycle where like, if I go in and I'm like, I literally can't move and I can't, I'm touring, I'm trying to like move my body on stage. I have to sit on a fucking ice pack. I can't like.
Sure.
This is crazy. And she goes, well, it's all normal. It's part of pregnancy and it'll go back after the baby's born. I'm like, yeah, but I shouldn't feel better walking after a C-section than I did walking into the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
Like I literally was in more pain walking into the hospital for a C-section than I was getting up an hour after surgery with like a dinner plate hole in my stomach, you know? So that kind of shit makes me go, we're not making enough noise about this. And the reason why we're not making enough noise about it is because we're being told we're being dramatic. And we're,
Is there any part that like, if at least when I look at like the conservative mindset sometimes, and they want population growth and whatever, I go, is the motivation to be like shh, is because there's a fear if people really get the knowledge of how rough this can be, that they'll go, oh fuck that shit. I don't want my pelvis splitting apart. Like, is that? Do you think that's part of the like smoothing over of not talking about how horrible or how hard it can be?
I don't think that's even conservative or Democrat, or I think that's more of just like a sociology thing, like where women are sort of raised to be, and we're getting better about it, but women are raised to not take up space, to be agreeable, to be polite, to smile, to, you know what I mean? And so, and if you aren't that way, you're sort of labeled problematic or just disruptive or just not ladylike or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's not even about like Republican, Democrat in that sense. Now,
Sure.
when it comes to like conservatives trying to be like the party of family and whatnot, I think it's the fact that if you get women pregnant and you give them the least amount of support they could possibly have as new mothers, they will eventually be forced out of the workforce. And that I think is the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall. Yeah. And people are like, well, they're giving $1,000 to babies. And I'm like, $1,000 fucking dollars to babies?
Yeah.
I spend $1,200 a week on childcare.
Sure.
A week.
Yeah.
So like, stop it. You know?
Yeah. Do you feel like being pregnant made you feel more politically like you care more? You're angered by it?
I give way more of a shit about like women's rights now than I did before. I give way more of a shit because it didn't. At least I didn't see the ways that it affected me as directly. And everybody's like, well, yeah, of course, nobody gives a shit until it affects you directly. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Of course.
Sure. I felt like I had a version where I had I think I can speak of it. I had two people I worked with in various capacities where, we started working together. They were pregnant and then they had to go away for like a long amount of time. And it was not that it like made me go like get women out of the workforce, but it was more like being face to face with that feeling of like, fuck, I wish we just started working together. They're not here.
Yeah.
And I think there has to be such a deep, it's a very personal thing to be like, and yes, and that annoyance that I feel, that's part of being part of the society that is good.
Well, yeah, I think what it comes down to is, and this is not on you.
Sure.
This is just a broader, like, if I'm using your example as like a broader societal thing, if people in the workforce said to themselves, all right, we've got to kind of like pick up the slack for this woman so that she can come back and have things run as smoothly as possible. Like, if we really were like as supportive as we say we are about families, then like we would allow women some grace during that time period and pick up the slack for them. And then when they come back, they're ready to work again. They're excited to be back. Like, believe me, when I got back to work, I was fucking stoked to be there. Mm-hmm. I was really like, I want to be a part of the world outside of just this, And it's tough. It's tough to do that for anybody because everybody feels like, oh, you want me to fucking do work because you decided to have a kid. We're in a very weird.
Yeah, but that's why throwing some money at it is like, no, this is a deeper, we all need to be working together. We all need to want that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But you're a worker. I remember you, after your first week at SNL, you were there on Sunday at the Comedy Cellar after your first SNL.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure plenty of comics, the stand-up part of them took a little breather once they started at that show.
Yeah. I can't blame them for that. I totally get it. For me, I was like, if I'm coming here to feel funny, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to remember that I'm funny, I need to be continuing to do stand-up.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's a balance. Like, you got to feel confident, but you also have to be a little afraid. And I think when I'm at SNL, I feel a little bit afraid. Because I'm like, I'm with some of the funniest people. They're so good at like being in a room and pitching in a room, and a room that does not give much back.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, like you can pitch a joke at the writer's table, and if it doesn't work, you can't even save it with a nothing. Like if you try that will get nothing, and then it's bad. Then you feel awful. So like it's that. You know what I mean? Like you got to sit in it and take an L and just that got nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you writing for Weekend Update and sketches, or Weekend Update specifically?
Weekend Update now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a relief at least with that? Do they do those jokes in the room in the writer's session, the read?
No. No. So
Okay.
we're writing while they're doing table read. So like I don't see the show anymore.
Oh,
like
okay.
I see Update. I'll see parts of the show on Saturday, but we're writing right up until we go on.
Sure.
So like for Joke Swap, we didn't get all of Che's jokes written, like Colin's jokes for Che.
Sure.
Like Colin didn't have those fully written until I think it was 11:55.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we go on at midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's wild.
We were
And
panicking.
that's
Who's
so
the cue card
crazy.
person? I want to see
And
the
in that-
writing
No,
down
we
these
were
cards.
running. We were like, should we take them down to cards? Should we take the jokes? Should we write them on cards ourselves?
And in that
'Cause,
case,
like,
are you doing completely different things for the dress rehearsal, like
For the joke swap.
For the joke swap, yeah.
yeah.
Wild. The card person, are they just incredible? It's hit by hand, right?
There's like 6. Yeah, there's like 6 or 8 people on cards.
That's so stressful.
oh man.
It was really stressful. I was like, oh my God. It was that kind of feeling where it's like, I will remember this forever. My heart rate did not go down until I saw credits rolling.
Yeah.
And I was worried that Scott, our producer, was like, I was like, Scott's going to have a heart attack. Like, Scott was so red. He was so red. And he was like, these are not going to make it on TV. He was like, these are not going to make it on TV.
Oh my God.
Like, we were all like, ah! Like, it was so scary.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is kind of like what's amazing about this show is there's
that's-
nowhere else on television anywhere where this could ever possibly happen. There's nowhere that there's a remote possibility of this ever happening.
Well, that's what felt so. I'm a big, not blowing smoke up your ass. Weekend Update is I think I love monologue jokes or traditional joke stuff, and it feels like late night it's been obliterated in terms of just it's the same thing. I feel like Weekend Update is one of the only places right now with just great pointed jokes. So I always watch it twice. I just really like the writing of it.
Well, I also think that like in late night that it's a little more like they're under different standards. I feel like,
but they let themselves. I mean, but everyone let themselves. Trump made everyone go into this thing of like, well, I gotta touch these 10 topics, and like you guys touch
The fun thing with Weekend Update is you can have these random stories that are like not that newsy or that topical that you can make just good jokes about. Like
And you didn't
this
see on
random
Twitter.
story-
You didn't even think about it. You
It's
didn't have 3 days to think about how
like
you
a
felt.
guy in
Yes.
Florida did this
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
like local stories.
Yeah.
Anyone, we did this when Casey was on too. Any one joke that got on that you wrote that you were like super proud of, and was there anyone that like tanked in the taping?
Nothing that's tanked. There was a joke that I wrote about Paddington Bear that ended up becoming like a longer chunk.
Yeah.
About how Paddington sucks and he's a menace and he like belongs in jail. And that was like one that I was really proud of. Because it just, when you have a joke that ends up like just building and you have like a longer, it's part of this longer like segment that Colin's been doing called Hear Me Out.
Yeah.
And that was really, really fun.
Sure.
Yeah. I think I'm out from this season. That's the one I'm most proud of.
Were you an SNL fan? Like, were you a Weekend Update person? Like, have you seen all the Norm Macdonalds?
Oh, of
have
course,
you?
yeah.
Yeah. Who was your favorite outside of the people you work with?
I would say Norm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I loved Colin too. I mean, I know Colin, like, he had a tough time because he was coming in after Lorne.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a tough position to fill.
Yeah.
But I really loved like Colin's attitude on Update.
It's crazy to think about it
like
as one person. It's been so long since I've watched it with one person. I mean, who was the last solo? Was it Seth for a little bit?
Seth for a little while. Colin for a little while, I think, too. Colin Jost.
Just Colin?
I thought it was just Jost for a little because Cecily came in and then it was like Cecily
and Seth for a minute.
Mm-hmm. And then I think it was just
just Seth.
And then I think it was just Jost. Or was it just Jost and Seth? I don't remember.
Do you remember who Jost was up against?
What do you mean?
Like, it was either going to be Jost or Jesselnick. They were
really?
the two, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'd never heard that.
I'd love to see that screen test. They should release that screen test. Okay, so McLean, Virginia.
Yes.
Did you, like I've said, I don't like where I grew up. It was very, it was separated from people.
Yeah.
Both my parents divorced, both great houses, but just it was lonely. Everyone was divorced and miserable, and it was very formal. And it
I
just
do
didn't
remember
like
when
it.
my parents got divorced feeling like I was more included.
Really?
Yeah, because it was
Yeah.
like a lot of children of like divorced parents.
Oh.
And nasty divorces too, because it was like money.
Money.
Yeah.
Money. And in some cases, at least
Yeah.
my mom was like asked by my father, not to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the woman was in a position where she didn't have the power of making money. So
Yes.
that to me,
Yep.
I grew up going, never do that because then the divorce is even worse. You need
Right.
independence.
Yes.
How old were you when your parents got divorced?
17.
17.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Was it a surprise?
Not really.
Yeah,
Not much gets past me. Like,
sure.
I saw it coming. I mean, especially at 17. You're like, well, why is dad sleeping on the couch?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Like, this can't
Nothing
be.
gets past me.
Yeah.
Dad hasn't been in the bedroom for 3 years now.
Yeah, that's definitely
Something's
pretty
going
obvious. Even if you're just like, I was kind of clueless in the sense that I didn't pay attention to what was like going on. I just figured they were fighting. But then when they got divorced, I was like, yeah, well, that's yeah.
But if sleeping on the couch, there wasn't a guest room.
There was a guest room, but we had a nanny that lived downstairs.
Sure.
We had like an au pair.
Me too.
Yeah.
I feel like we have a lot in common
Mm-hmm.
in this sense.
You had a live-in
Oh.
au pair?
Later in my life, yeah, we had a live-in babysitter when I was young in a smaller house, and then later we had a live-in au pair. This is on my mom and stepdad's side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad would just like come home, pass out on the couch. I think at some point he would probably move to the bedroom to go to sleep, but it was just like, I just knew that my mom and dad were like not getting along.
Yeah.
I could feel that. And also they had 5 fucking kids.
Sure.
So like, if all you're ever hearing is like how exhausted both of your parents are, you're like,
Yeah.
well, this is joyless.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, even if you don't know the intricacies of marriage or the nuances or how difficult it is, outside of all of that, like 5 kids is ridiculous.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous amount of kids to have.
Were they my mom and stepdad? My stepdad was a lawyer as well. There was their version of fight. We'd all go to bed
Mm-hmm.
and they'd fight in the kitchen, and I was the oldest. And
Yep.
so you'd hear it.
Oldest of how many?
Of on that side, I had 3 younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's, I just remember there was a lot of like upstairs and they're clearly arguing in the kitchen, and we
Yes.
can all hear my mom's,
Yes.
they split a bottle of wine every night, and you're like, this is not helping anything.
Right. Yeah. But at least they're splitting the wine.
At least they're splitting the wine.
Yeah. They're not having their own bottle by themselves.
Okay, can I tell you? I hope for we have some new listeners these days. So when they got divorced, at least in Maryland, you had to live under separate roofs for a year in order to file for divorce, and you're not supposed to have sex during that year either. It's part of the law. I think it's been repealed, but that's what it was.
Yeah. And who checks?
Well, here's the answer. Whoever doesn't want the divorce can say, "Well, we fucked."
Oh
Your
my
Honor.
God.
I mean, that's I assume that's
Crazy.
the only reason I can imagine. When I think about it.
Yeah.
And so my mom didn't have, she was a Pilates teacher, but she was used to a certain standard of living. And she was in the basement. She went to the basement. She was sleeping in the basement for years. And then breakfast, everyone was together, and it was just torture.
Right.
And she wanted money to move out. He didn't want to give it. And so he had a wine cellar. And then one day she picked me up from a voice lesson. She said he took all the money out of the shared account.
Love when they share those details.
Yeah. But it was so she goes, I'm going to take the wine. So we go home. She starts loading up the wine. She asked me if I would help her, and I said no. I didn't know what.
Did you know what was like the expensive bottles to take?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, she took it all.
Yeah. Oh,
she
wow.
took 2, and she's fit. She's a Pilates teacher.
Yeah.
She took ultimately 2 carloads of wine. I didn't help, and I felt, I still have thoughts. Should I have helped? This was my
How old were
stepdad
you?
for 14 years. I was like 16 or 17, but this has been my stepdad since I was 4.
Yeah.
I didn't know if this was, and there was just a certain degree of like, well, you set this
did
up.
this.
I
You
didn't
did this.
set up
Right.
any of this shit.
Right.
And now you want me to like blow it up, and I don't even know the details of anything.
Yeah.
but ultimately used that wine as like bargaining chips, and it didn't count as theft, as at least what I've been told, because they co-owned the wine.
Right.
You can't steal what you co-own.
You're married. Yeah.
And in returning that, got whatever amount of money she needed to do that divorce.
Damn. Okay, so she's a hustler.
So
I
yours.
love it.
So yours.
I'm kind of into this.
Was there? Did they do a formal announcement to the family we're getting divorced? And one day there's just two houses.
They did a formal announcement at a therapist's office.
Oh,
and
really?
then they took us to a therapist's office. Very waspy.
You knew what you were getting into? Like you knew what this meeting was for?
No.
Really?
No. I remember going to the therapist and being like, I guess we're doing like family therapy or whatever. And then hearing that they were going to get divorced and being like weirdly relieved. I remember being like, okay, good. Yeah, that feels right.
Do you feel your my siblings, we each had our own reaction to it? Of course, our lives are different. I was out of the house.
Right.
One was almost out of the house. One was looking at the next 8 years of their life going back and forth.
Yeah. I kind of had the same reaction as if I was the one getting divorced. I was like fired up. And then once it was real, I was like, well, this sucks. You know?
Yeah.
So like I kind of had just that initial like divorce energy where I was like, we're divorced now.
You're
like
Nicole
our family's
Kidman after the Tom
divorced.
Cruise
Yeah, you
in
know
the
what I mean?
parking lot.
I was like 2 Christmases.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was pumped. And then after a while, I was like, it's getting a little weird, not loving this vibe.
What sucked about it? Because you were out of the house.
If my dad came to drop us off and he walked in the door, my mom would be like, get out. It was like, don't look at my fucking mail. It was just like, it was, I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be like cool between you guys.
Oh, you did? You thought for a second maybe be like, hey, you both want this.
Yeah. I just thought, the way that they described it to me was that they both wanted it and that it was like, and then it became kind of clear like, oh, okay, like my dad doesn't want it, but he also doesn't want to like be a husband.
Oh.
So like I just started picking up on like the reasons why they wanted a divorce. That started becoming very obvious to me, but it was only after the fact that they had already done it. So like I was like, hey, you know how you guys were hiding most of what was going on from us before? I'm like, maybe if we could go back to that would be awesome so that we're not feeling like we're, I didn't have the tools like mentally to go, I shouldn't know about this, This isn't my responsibility. I shouldn't have to make you guys feel better. You shouldn't be unloading any of that on me.
I know, but it's so I don't know when I remember my mom, she just turned to me in the car. She said, we didn't have sex for 9 years. And I was like, it happened so quick. There was no time. There was no time for me to go,
Right.
stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's like you gotta, I think there was a point because my parents, they hated each other so much they renewed their divorce. They like, it was
Wait, I'm sorry. They renewed their divorce?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
They like my dad wanted to stop paying something. They had to like relitigate everything.
it.
So like right as I was getting married, they were in the middle of like relitigating their whole divorce arrangement.
They have to bring a priest to take this bitch to be your ex-wife again.
Yeah, I'm like, this is crazy. You guys are obsessed with each other in a way because like. Stop getting. You've already been divorced.
Yeah.
Was there any part that you thought, in maybe even a fucked up way, they wanted to still see each other and interact? Like, was there any love between them even after all this, or connection, or were they?
I think you can't. Having had a child with someone, there is no way that you can go through that much of life with somebody without feeling love for them.
That's how I feel, but
I think you get to a point too where the amount of resentment that piles up and the amount of like that can overpower any sort of feelings of love that you have. So like, I think it just got to that point where it was like, there's no fucking way that they would ever be together again. Also, my dad is a man and he, men, they get divorced and they find a new woman almost immediately. Like,
that's like a common thing?
oh, yeah. Yeah. Like if I died, I think Andy would find a new wife within a year. Within a
comic?
year. I don't care. But just anybody.
Yeah.
I think it would be like anyone. I think he'd be like, let me
In a
just find.
year?
Yeah.
No way.
Hands down.
Here's a
Hands
long
down.
time.
But to get a wife, though.
No,
To get a wife, not just seeing
I see,
someone,
I
to
see.
marry.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
saying to marry.
Oh, maybe not marry, but like he'd find somebody, who could like take care of him. I think that's.
I think if
that's what it
Tovah
comes down
died,
to.
I think I'd wait at least a year before I started dating.
And good for you.
Good for you. What a weird hypothetical that you'll
Okay,
never have to.
if Nicole died, how long are you going to wait?
Who's to know? I don't know. Who's to know? I also think that I can see because you're like, there's certain things when you are married and you're like, oh, I like that there's someone around all the time. Oh, I like that we share responsibility. Like I can see you just wanting to replace that.
Yeah,
And-
married
and,
with a kid is no joke. Like you need a partner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just hope that he would be smart enough to find someone who's like good. You know what I mean? Who is like a good person. Like that's the trick is like, are you looking for someone to help you take care of her or are you looking for someone to take care of you?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think Andy has the wherewithal and the mental health to like wait until he finds someone who could actually be like a good stepmom. But I wouldn't put it past him to take up to like 6 months.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so you said that there were a lot of people you were growing up with that were also their parents had divorced. Like I feel like when I grew up in my area, it was like a bit of a stain. There would be shame around when friends had to tell you that their parents. Did you feel that, or you felt like, oh, actually, a lot of people?
No, I kind of felt like, hey guys, my parents are divorced now too.
Here's an interesting thing about me now.
Well, McLean, Virginia there's such a lack of any sort of street cred that was like the closest you'd get to it. So I was
really?
like, hey guys, guess whose parents are getting divorced? Like I just felt like edgy, which is so sad now looking back. But I was like, yep, broken home.
Yep.
I was like, that
Maybe
was the
I'll
way
have a
that I
one-woman show someday.
it's just like.
But you've heard enough of divorce from me, from every guest we have. When you look at your community with less divorce, do you go, oh, it was any less fucked up?
No, it was good. No, no, it probably more fucked up. It's a lot of people that are just like, stuck and like, I'm sure, but it just felt like it felt older in terms of like, it's a smaller community. It felt like there was more stigma attached to it than probably like you would hear about divorces.
But it makes, I guess,
you hear about that. 50% of marriages end in divorce, and that was like a scary thing that people in the area
I
would
would
share.
hear that all the time. Yeah.
By the way, I read later that fact was like over exaggerated. It was a very specific time in the 80s, and the study wasn't. That's more like 30 something. I was like, oh, I had no idea.
You know what I think it does teach you, though? Like, whether you come from a community where people stick together no matter what, or if you came from, like, a divorced parents, I think it does teach you that, like, what makes a successful marriage is not just having it last.
Yes.
Like, the idea that staying together is some indicator of success, that's not what it is. Like, you could have a successful marriage and still divorce, but like it's the way that both people are able to grow within their marriage in either different directions or together. But like, I think that I was worried at the time. I was like, if I get married, am I doomed? And then I was like, no, it's just like now I know what I'm looking for in a marriage. And I know that divorce is like, it's there as an option.
Sure.
If we have to go, if it's like, if both of us or one of us stops being able to grow, then it's time to, call it quits.
So I feel like I always felt like when people go like, I would never speak to my ex again, or they start shit talking their ex or whatever. Like an ex, and they didn't necessarily have kids.
Yeah.
But I think it's always been, I think, part of my core philosophy because of the divorce where I was like, I look down on that. I look
Yeah.
at as a sign of like, of course, if someone's abusive, of course,
Right.
But like there was a feeling of kids or no, this whole idea of like hating your old partner. It's tied to that same thing of like shame the divorce because you don't want people to think it's an option.
Yes.
And it's like I always hated it outside of kids. I thought there was something very admirable about still getting along with your ex. And, it always gets more complicated when you have new partners and all sorts of feelings.
Right.
But I think it was the divorce where I said, there's no glory or there's nothing cool that you hate your ex. You spent so much time with them.
Right.
And per your point, when you have a kid, it feels, but even without the kid, I go, you spent all this time together. You have a history. That's a chunk of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like a giant red flag if you meet somebody and they start talking shit about their ex right away. You're like, oh, yuck.
Yeah.
You're like,
tell my
she
dad
was
that.
crazy.
Yeah.
I tell my dad every time.
Yeah. Or even like he was crazy. You know, like it's like, okay, well, work it out with yourself,
With yourself.
No, it's just when people say that, they never acknowledge the part of like, and I was with them for 5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, you can't not
They
include
tell so many
that.
stories
Yes.
and you're like, yeah, but you're like, there's so many stories. You were around that whole time.
You ever judge someone for who they dated?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's tough.
Yeah.
You go, how?
How?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I judge myself based on who I've dated. For
Really?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm like, there's like, it would be easy to judge me based on who I've dated. Let me put it that way. They're not all winners. Let's put it that way. Sorry.
So I just, we're kind of going backwards in time.
I proceed to talk shit about my exes by like,
They're not all winners.
yeah.
Fuck
It's a red
those
flag.
guys.
Listen.
Fully just, I'm like, it's a huge red flag. But yeah, the guys I dated.
So I want to make sure I have the correct details though.
Ooh.
Oh, I saw this awful thing on Twitter today. I gotta get off Twitter. I saw you're on
It's
Threads.
so
And I was
horrible.
like, oh, Threads is functioning.
I love Threads.
I gotta get on it.
I'll say it.
Twitter, I got an
Twitter
ad
is
today.
just sailors dying on my when I go. It's just that video. It's just that video a million times of like people dangling. That's all it is when I go
from the bridge
And
recently.
it's horrible. And I'm like, I don't want to watch this anymore. So I watched the first time. Curious because it happened. It was a big thing that happened. They had lots of angles.
Yeah.
So I watched one video on it, and now all it is these poor people hitting the thing and they're dangling, and
Oh my
every video
God.
is that.
Oh my God.
Get off my feed.
I'm going to start keeping track of because the one I've been getting recently, it's an ad. It keeps popping up. The movie is called January 6th versus George Floyd, The Reckoning.
Versus
And,
the date?
and I'm like, I already own it on DVD. Stop advertising it to me. Oh my God. No,
Wait,
I mean,
how are those two things again? Like,
It's
it's
that's
not.
truly like that is the media's attempt at Wolverine and Deadpool.
Yeah.
That's the conservative Wolverine versus Deadpool.
Yeah.
January 6th versus George Floyd. Jesus fucking Christ.
Christ, they are so fucked.
there's a lot more people on the one side
Yeah.
than the other.
Sure. So your grandfather, Secretary of Treasury under Reagan, and then Secretary of State under Bush. So you were going to the White House as a kid?
Yeah.
And is that a fun place to be as a kid? Were you dressed up?
We have to dress up. It was kind of like, we're going to granddad's work, basically. So it wasn't like, I was just like, why do we keep coming to his work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember.
And why were you? Just because it's like.
Because, it was like
the-
my parents were like, yeah, let's bring the kids to the White House. That's awesome,
Yeah,
And-
but he wasn't like working at a desk. Like it was like a public function or something.
no, it was like, the Easter egg roll or like.
Sure.
I think there's one picture of me. I don't know if it was at Christmas or something, but Michael Jackson was there. And Michael Jackson was holding me as a baby.
Wow.
I was a little young for him, even at that age.
Sure,
but,
sure. Was it over a guardrail or like
it was,
behind?
it was behind a guardrail.
That's good.
I wasn't dangling.
Good.
But yeah, it was. There's like a lot of pictures of us there at like Christmas and Easter and stuff.
And from the time you were a baby, so you don't remember the
Yeah.
Michael Jackson interaction.
I don't remember that.
But do you remember any of the other celebrities there?
I don't. I remember at one point being there for a dinner. I don't know if it was Christmas. I don't know if it was like an inauguration. I don't know what it was, but it was like a bunch of tables. I was sitting there at dinner and a bunch of people were making speeches. And I remember standing up and like banging a fork against my wine glass, my like water wine glass, and standing up on my chair. And I was like, well, everybody's talking, so I'm going to talk. And so I got up and I was like, George, I want to thank you. And everybody it got this huge laugh.
Yeah.
Me just calling him George.
Sure.
And they were like, you're supposed to call him Mr. President. And I was like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call someone Mr. President.
Yeah.
You
That
know?
is an absurd thing.
Yeah.
It should be President Bush.
Yeah.
It felt absurd. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not, that feels ridiculous coming out
Yeah,
of my
Mr.
mouth.
President does sound like what you would tell a kid to call. It is crazy.
Yeah.
that we
Mr.
say-
Doctor.
Yeah,
Someone-
Mr.
It's like
Doctor.
ChatGPT
Yeah.
took in manners, and that's what it said you should do.
It feels insane.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm not calling him Mr. President. I don't know if I had seen clips of Marilyn Monroe doing it or what,
Oh,
but like,
yeah.
You start singing Happy Birthday, and
but to
they're
me,
like, stop.
Mr. President felt like
Slutty.
sexual or slutty or something.
Sure.
And I don't know. I just was like, no, I'm not his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that getting a big laugh, but I don't remember the rest of the speech or anything like that. It's this weird thing where, you know, it's just your granddad. So I just saw him as my granddad, and it wasn't like I didn't know that much about him. I really didn't even know much about him up until even now. There's probably people in comedy that know more about what my granddad's done than I do. Like
Sure.
I've tried to educate myself just for my own act and just to know like where I'm coming from and what my family has done, what the impact of my family has been.
And you want to know?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, you should know.
Sure.
I think you should know.
Yeah.
For better or worse, like you should know what they've done, what their impact has been.
Yeah.
Do you feel connected to it? Connected to if they did something? Was there something that he did that you go, ugh?
For sure. But it's like I have to look at it from kind of a neutral place where it's like, okay, how have I benefited from the harm that he's caused? And where does that fit in? If I'm speaking on stage and saying, you know, even if like the premises are based in opinion, I do need to like have something to back up like where I'm coming from, whether there's hypocrisy there. It's like you have to know every angle on something to write a joke on it.
Yeah.
To write an informed joke on it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I was coming from when I was like, let me study what the fuck he did and what he said so that I don't sound like a fucking moron.
Has that caused any friction in your family, in terms of you?
I mean, not really. They don't really consider what I'm doing to be like that impactful.
Okay.
You know?
Sure.
Like it's caused friction with people that it really genuinely would not affect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think even on my dad's side, like they don't, you know, they're not like fans of like a dick sucking bit that I've done.
Sure.
That would cause more friction
Than
any sort of criticism on a political
thing.
Are they still in office? Do you have like a cousin who's like a person or whatever?
I think I have a cousin who works in he's working, or I don't know if he's working there or if his wife's working there, but somebody's in government. It's my cousin. I don't want to bring him in.
Sure, no, I understand.
Yeah.
But like, it's not like your dad didn't follow this political thing.
No, my dad works for the law firm that that my granddad works at. So it's a tricky, like, you know, sometimes I'm like, when I started comedy, I was like, I was never trying to get a rise out of my family. I wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to piss them off. Like, it was just, how do I speak about where I come from in an honest way? And because that would set me apart from people in a Brooklyn open mic more than anything else. Yeah. You know what I mean?
How did you think about, like, I certainly, we both grew up in rich, wealthy homes. Mm-hmm. Do you think about, like, just how you talk, what it is to come from privilege? There's a constant joke with comedians of like, oh, the rich kids who are able to, like, pursue this because they had the money and they're the ones speaking the truth to power, but they came from the power supported this so-called truth. And yeah, it's just sometimes it was always important. I thought of, like, the same way with a Nepo baby. It's like, you can't get defensive. You can't be like, no, I don't come from this privilege. You have to acknowledge it. Yeah. And I guess there's some desire to, sometimes I go like, oh, my desire to talk shit about it actually doesn't have any real world impact. The wars still continue. The lawsuits still.
Right. I mean, yeah, I guess you're right. Sorry. I feel like I cut you off.
No, it's fine. Like, do you just, like, how do you talk about it on, like, what's your approach to talking about coming from privilege in a way that doesn't make an audience go, well, fuck you?
I mean, part of it is that I feel like I've covered it already. If there's more to kind of, like, dig for, then I'm in the process of figuring out what that is. But
sometimes trauma, fucked up familyness, it almost, like, makes me feel, sure, we had this nice home. It was very unhappy though. Right. And it, like, in a way, that's, like, in my own mind, that's how I, like, balance the scales.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of look at it and I go, the only reason I'm even able to unpack any of that trauma is because I came from privilege. Yeah. Like, even having the time to unpack what's happened to me on an emotional level suggests that my life was not about just survival.
Yeah.
It was about, like, how do I move past this thing that happens so that I can thrive emotionally? And that alone is, like, a privilege that I have and that I've benefited from. But it doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't mean, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? Like, believe me, if I was fucking employable in any other capacity, I would be doing that. Like, if I was employable in the capacity that my father is, or I would love to fucking go to law school. I don't study well. I'm not a good student. You know, I would never pass the bar. Like, I'm where I'm supposed to be, as far as I'm concerned. And also, I kind of look at it now and I'm like, yeah, like, I came from privilege. And I think that there is, but I look at how much money my parents have compared to how much money, the billionaire class has. And I go, they're like baby rich.
Sure.
They're like fucking, it's like they're fooling themselves. You know what I mean? If they were to sit down with Bezos, it's like they look like fucking peasants. The fact that they have to, like, that they'd have to split their money up between all of us and we wouldn't be rich is, like, kind of an embarrassment compared to what, like, Bezos or, like, Soros or any, you know what I mean? I'm like, those people have fucking money. Like, and I grew up in a way where everything we wanted was there. We had it. We were incredibly lucky in that capacity, but it wasn't as if I would say, like, oh, I want a car, and I would, like, get whatever I wanted. Or, like, I don't know if it was, like, my dad's attitude about money or if it was just how much money we had, but it was like, no, none of us got, like, the things that my friends would get, where it's like my friends would turn 16 and they'd all get their own car, and then their brothers would get their own car, and like we didn't.
Maybe that's the thing. If you come from wealth, you just have to move to a place wealthy enough that you are the lower class of that neighborhood, and that's how they are grounded.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, before we go into this, stop. I do want to talk about that you did go to college for acting, which is wild. Which you went to, in Boston. What's it called?
I went to Emerson.
Emerson, yes.
I got fucking got into Emerson on musical theater.
I did not know
Really?
that. Paige missed that.
Wow.
What did you sing for your audition?
Well, I can't remember. I literally can't remember.
But you did musicals growing up in high school.
I would do musicals growing up in high school, and I wanted to go to college for musical theater, and then my sister died, and I got into school, and I was like, I don't want to do musicals.
Sure.
It was like my sister's dead, and I was like, I can't be doing jazz hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We had Ashley
Just
Ray
the dark
on.
ones.
Right.
Ashley Ray was on the podcast, and she went to musical theater camp the week that her father died, and she talked about a similar thing of like it's
She just
so
was like,
cheery.
The worst place you could possibly be is like a musical theater camp.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's really because I even have a bit where I go like sometimes it's just too much cheer. Like there's some musicals that fit,
right?
You know, if you were doing Send in the Clowns, sure,
for sure, yeah.
But Annie Rogers and Hammerstein, you're like, I can't.
The sun will come out tomorrow. Yeah, no.
No.
That's so funny.
You're like, forget it.
The production of Annie and the person playing Annie just lost their whole family in a plane crash.
Yeah, musicals become so annoying too if you're like sad. You're like, shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like, if you're in a bad mood, it's like the last thing you want to be doing.
Yeah,
is
and
seeing a musical.
the energy of
They ask a lot of energy from you.
yeah. Well, just even the energy of the people around me that loved musicals, that weren't surrounded by like
training.
death and divorce.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I just don't have whatever you guys have. Like I like lost that. It's gone.
You know, company Sondheim. So there was an original ending to that show. Being Alive is obviously the big number, but he had a different ending where he basically it was shitting on marriage. It was like marriage is bullshit, and the director made him change it to Being Alive. But like I just love it's just like that impulse to want to do that. And he said they would do it in previews, and the audience would look at him like, why are you doing this to us?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what I love, though.
Well, that's what a play is.
Yes.
That's why I was like, I'm just going to do plays, because a play will tell you the worst thing you've ever heard in your life, and then just lights up, and you're just sitting there with your thoughts and what you just learned.
Yeah.
And you just have to look at the person next to you and be like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I loved that about plays, is that it left people uncomfortable, and that was how I felt at the time.
I imagine, not to say tragedy is for the sake of art, but I just have to imagine having dealt with something so intense. I mean, you're either numb or you go into acting class and you're just like you're fucking a raw nerve of emotion.
Yeah, I was like, well, you know, I was raised by like my dad and like that Republican DC, and also Texan, coming from Texas,
Fucking
kind
get
of
you
like
in a Tennessee
vibe.
Williams play, just fucking knock it out of the park.
It was all like down here, so like anything that allowed me a space that was deemed appropriate to like let stuff out. That was where I felt the most comfortable.
So what playwrights were you drawn to? What plays did you like?
I love Edward Allan Baker. I love David Mamet.
Yeah, I love David. I mean, I used to. Now I go like, okay, but that's all I wanted to do when I was younger.
Yeah.
Just curse on stage and just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You just want to say, you fucking cunt.
I know. Yeah. I loved all that shit.
Yeah.
And I loved, oh God.
We get to do that now. I mean,
who wrote Moonlight? What is it?
John Patrick Shanley.
John Patrick Shanley. I loved John Patrick Shanley. I thought he wrote women really well. I loved Tennessee Williams.
You'd be great in Danny in the Deep Blue Sea.
Danny in the Deep Blue Sea.
I loved that fucking play.
You'd be great in it.
Yeah.
Do you still act? I mean, you of course you still act, but do you have a love for it?
I do. I haven't had the opportunity to do a part that's like that I would be really into, you know, and on that where it's like you sink your teeth into it. But I've wanted to, and I've been thinking more and more recently about like auditioning for plays on Broadway and just seeing what happens, you know?
Would you be okay? You know, you could do stand up at night, I guess, but like, could you go back to Not having the autonomy of stand-up. I mean, stand-up is such a mad... You could go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a short run.
Yeah, I could definitely go back. I mean, I feel like you can... Stand-up will always be there. And the way that I operate is like, if I don't have different options to choose from... I sort of die. Like if I can't like jump over here and focus on this for a little while, like, and I'm just doing stand up and that's my whole life, it just starts to feel dry to me.
Yeah.
And I need to just try different things. That is part of the autonomy of stand up is being able to walk away, to write a book, to get a writing job, to do an acting gig. That's part of why I love it. It's like everything that I have always been interested in, writing, acting, staying up late, you know what I mean? Like it was like all the pieces of my personality just kind of came together and I was like, oh, this is the thing that I've always should have been doing.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know that it was like an option, you know?
Do you still feel in acting shape? Do you feel like, would you ever take a class again? Or are you like, I'm ready, just fucking put me in?
I'd be really interested to see what it would be like after becoming a mom, actually.
And why do you say that?
Because I feel so much more raw than I was before.
Yeah.
Like, and also like having my daughter, I want her to be able to access like the softer parts of me. And I realized very quickly that she won't ever do that if I'm not able to. So I like had to get back into therapy for PTSD because like there's a lot of shit about my sister's death that I just had been like just sort of muscling my way through for years. And
having a kid made you go, now I need to deal with this now.
Yeah, because for the first year of her life, I just like couldn't feel anything. Like I just felt like really tense and nervous, but like I couldn't put a voice to it. And there would be anytime she got sick, I felt like she's not sick. She's not sick. She's going to be fine. You know what I mean? And Andy would have to be like, hey, it's okay. We're just taking her to the doctor. Like
I see.
You know what I mean? Where like I would just be like, I feel it even just retelling it. Yeah. You know, where
when you first have a kid, is there any, I mean, it depends if I'm a neurotic person where it's like, I feel like if I were to hold my kid for the first time, I know I'd have this anxiety thinking about it going like, what if I hold it and I go like, oh God, I'm not swept with something. And that's that first moment. Did you feel that stress? I mean, even thinking about the stress itself would be stressful and it would create like a...
No, because I literally went into a freeze state. Like I wasn't judging necessarily how I felt holding her or how I was like, I wasn't expecting anything. I felt like whatever happens is going to be normal. But even if it's like wild, you know, like unless it's like postpartum psychosis or something like that, which would be pretty obvious to everybody around me before it was obvious to me. And then in that case, it's not my problem. You know what I mean? But but I was like, they'll figure it out. But throw me in a hospital. You know what I mean? I'm not my responsibility.
We give her the light. We need to get
But I kind of felt like I just was frozen. I couldn't really, you're so scared, after losing my sister who was 7 years old, the idea of that death could come at any moment.
Sure.
That it's waiting around any corner, that I could walk out of this building and get hit by a bus. Like all of that, I had kind of been muscling my way through that and living with the fear of it for years. And now I had someone to care for. And I was so terrified that I couldn't feel anything. Like I was just frozen. Like it was...
Terrified something happened, like you weren't looking and like, was there a neuroses of... What is it, SIDS, sudden infant? I mean, you hear about that, you go like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, my husband was having serious anxiety about that.
Sure,
and my whole reaction to that was, that's not happening, that's not happening, that's not happening. So it was like, when I say freeze, it was like it was just pushing everything down.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I was like, I'm gonna end up in a hospital. I'm gonna like fucking die of stress, and had to like get back into therapy. Had to work through like PTSD shit. You know, like I think about a year and some change into her life, I had like a fucking crazy therapy session. I cried for like 4 hours, and
Really?
yeah, in a way that was like not connected to what was actually happening that day.
Totally.
You know, where it was just like an exorcism.
Yeah.
And then was like, okay, well, it seems I should go back to therapy on a weekly basis. And he was like, yeah, I would say so. So like we've
Yeah, it's hour 4.
yeah, he's like, maybe we should, you know. He's like, thank you for paying the mortgage on my home, but we'll see you next week. You know? Yeah.
You got it when
Can you imagine if he's like, no, I think you're good. We give it another 10 years and come back in. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard with therapists because you know they want to help, but of course there's a part of them that they must go like, okay, good, I got this slot filled for the next 6 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But also I've been with my therapist, I've been with him for like 10 years. So I guess I just thought.
You took a gap though.
When I had the baby, I took a gap. Because I just didn't have time to focus on myself, to be honest. I like didn't, everybody's like, you got to take time to focus on yourself. I'm like, okay, well, where's the village?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, do they just show up? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't happen that easily.
It's that comic stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going to leave my kid with them. Fucking degenerates.
Let's go into our next segment. This has got to stop.
This has got to stop.
This has got to stop. This is where we say something needs to come to an end. Big, small, personal, public, whatever it is. Russell, do you have a this got to stop?
Yeah, I have a very simple, this has got to stop this week. The strings on bananas. I don't know evolutionary wise what they do, what they contribute to the banana, but it's when you get that rare banana that peels perfectly and the strings are not a problem, but whatever's going on in where I live, the bananas are been extra stringy lately. I don't know if that's because of tariffs or things, but get those fucking strings out of there. I hate them.
And then sometimes you think you get the string, but like
And then you don't. You take a bite and then you have half
is
of a string in your mouth. Yeah.
the profit. When I look at like how the bananas function and how far they need to travel and the little profit margin, you're like, how is this
So
an
you're
industry?
saying we have to remove the strings.
Remove the strings.
Yeah,
from
it can be
bananas.
it doesn't have to be something that can be done.
I don't care if it's a fake banana I'm eating.
Okay.
Like just
They made watermelon seedless. Surely they can
somehow
make bananas.
somehow get rid of those strings, right?
Yes.
It could still be wrapped in a thing. Of course, I like that it's wrapped.
Yeah.
I like that I have to peel it, but I don't want the strings attached to it. You know?
Okay, yeah. Oh, I love that. That's
Stringless
very inventive.
bananas. Yeah.
Stringless bananas.
Stringless bananas.
They invented somehow that makes the next global pandemic and we die because you're fucking.
You create jobs because it is something AI can't do.
Yes.
You know?
I could see Whole Foods
could have
eventually
an-
selling they make sure they
Go
take all
and
the strings off,
reseal it.
or like baby bananas, like with baby carrots. You know,
Yeah.
they just make little.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they have those.
It's called baby food, I think.
No, I think they have like baby bananas.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I think I've bought a bunch of baby bananas.
Ooh, I'll get some baby bananas.
Unless I just bought really, really not ripe bananas.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
you're right. They make like little ones.
Oh yeah, but I think those still have strings too, though.
They do
I-
have strings, yeah.
I went to a supermarket that had it's like the biggest supermarket in bumfuck Ohio, but it had like 30 different kinds of bananas.
Really?
And I want to try them all, but after 2, you
You
go.
wanted to try them all?
I want. Yeah.
Do they all
red
look
ones
differently?
oh yeah, all different.
Oh, wow.
My hope is that we have the biggest booming like American stringless banana economy. That we're the only country that can take the strings out of bananas. And
How
that
much are you
it
going to
all
pay for
came
that
from
stringless
here.
banana? Okay, so what are you paying for a banana now in your neighborhood?
Such a good question. I don't know. I don't because I'm not buying it alone. Like I'm usually getting all the
bunch.
groceries. Yeah.
I see.
So I don't have no idea.
I'd pay $2 if you told me $2. I mean,
$2 a banana.
if it's stringless.
So you'd pay $12 for 6 bananas.
If I could swing it, if it's a good week.
You're like, am
If
I
I
even
sold enough merch.
am I looking at the thing? You know?
Yeah.
I guess it's I'm gonna a banana a day.
Is that a phrase?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying I like
Banana
having
a
a
day.
banana a day.
You're not going to own a home someday.
Yeah. You rhyme day with day. Good.
Yeah, that's really. We're on a first draft.
Yeah.
I didn't even mean to. I thought I
A
did.
banana a day. Yeah. Home day. Yeah.
A banana a day, you lose your home.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sort of the opposite of inspiring, but yeah.
This has got to stop. I understand hotels. We're trying to make them cheap. We're just, the blanket cannot be this thin. The thinness of some of these hotel blankets.
Oh my God.
It's too much a slap in the face. Again, I understand it's not the nicest hotel, but it's the Marriott. You put your name on it. You
don't have to hurt our feelings. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, if it's a slight chill, it does nothing. And you order 3 of them, it's like 3 pieces of paper on you. It is, you got to make them a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
That's
just for the people having an affair there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's people that are like bringing people there.
But that's why they do it. They go, well, they say back to me, stop coming on all the blankets.
They say that to you.
No, I'm just theoretically.
I was like, what a
saying-
crazy.
Yeah,
they're
they
saying,
leave
hey,
a note on the pillow. Hey, here's your chocolate, dirtbag.
Yeah.
Quit coming on the blankets.
I'm convinced there's towels, and then they have like the bigger towels. I don't know what those are, but then they have the hand towels, and then there's an even smaller size towel. And I go, those are cum towels.
Cum towels, yeah.
Yes.
Every time I walk into a hotel room, I think, what's the worst thing that's happened in this room? Like,
And
what
how
was
can I
the,
top?
Me too.
What was the worst way this room has been left?
Me too. It's
You know?
always when I'm taking my shoes off.
Yeah.
Always. I'm like, what am I fucking walking on?
Are you using the glass? Like, are you like, I'm using the glasses. I'm over it. I go, yeah, it's dirty. I'm in hotels too much to think about.
I hate those things where they're like, where they show
There's
all the
cum in all the
steps.
glasses.
No, they
Oh.
show all the steps, those fake videos, or I don't know if they're real, but they show like the steps you should take when you get into a hotel
Oh,
room.
God.
It's crazy. But
What
They'll
steps?
show it'd be like a woman in a hotel room who's must have been murdered in a past life, but she like all the different ways to set up security and lock the door.
But
And you're
then
like,
also,
why are you traveling?
But then also cleanliness,
Right.
there's a way to check the sheets and check the thing and all the, so it's like a 4-hour process,
Yeah.
But
as long as there's not bed bugs, I'll be okay. Bed bugs and a thicker blanket.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have this gotta
Yes,
stop?
I absolutely do.
What's your this gotta stop?
And I know I'm years late on this and that it's not going to reverse itself magically, but the the doors, the automatic doors on an Uber or a taxi that where you open it and then it's like the driver's like, no.
the driver's always so mad.
I'm like, they're so mad at you.
Shut up. Like,
I'm
what?
like, it's your car.
Yeah.
You knew when you bought the car that this was going to happen every day.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I just, it's not working. Like we can open the doors.
It's fine when we close it too. It's fine when we do it.
Right.
Like when they get so mad about it, it's like, it's fine.
The
I
car
closed
company
it.
needs to make clear to them, hey, we built this that even if a human being shoves it, nothing, it's okay. Because
Right.
for me, it's the trunk. The trunk is crazy. And then I get conditioned, and then I go to a car where I stand outside the open trunk and they go, you close it.
Yeah.
And I go,
Yes.
sorry. Last time I did this, someone screamed at me.
I
at me.
know. I'm
Yeah.
convinced that whoever designed these doors, where it's like if you even so much as touch it, it will just stop.
Freezes.
And it only moves at like the pace that would be okay in 1980.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I feel like whoever designed it is the same guy that designed the fucking AirPods, where if it drops on the ground, they both go off in two different
Yeah.
directions.
It's crazy.
like that. It's the same guy.
Imagine trying to use one of those vans as like a getaway car in a bank.
I mean, honestly.
and you're trying to shove it, and the driver's like, no, don't.
Wait,
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
Those
They get
headphones,
so
that headphones
mad.
one is insane. It's like they got whoever invented the grenade to design the AirPods, where they just fall and it's a
Yes.
disaster and it's
Yeah.
humiliating.
I once tried to get into it because the fucking doors are so slow. A lot of times, cab drivers will just take off while the doors
Yes,
are open.
yes.
I once got into one of these cabs with a car seat. Right, I'm trying to like buckle the car seat into the cab, and he's just taking off, and I'm like, no. I was like, I have a loose car seat here.
Yeah.
and he's just fucking just gunning
my
it. I was
God.
like, these cars need to be eliminated. They need to go.
Is there anything just to add? Just because if I ever have a kid, I'm going to take him on the road.
yeah.
Is there any this has got to stop or something that you need traveling with a baby? Because I saw you're traveling
Yes.
with a 1-year-old.
Okay, so there's a car seat. There's one brand of car seat that like it's basically a stroller that folds down into a car seat. So you can like push it down the thing and then like fold it up, put it in an Uber, get on the plane with it, and it's like it's amazing.
Wow.
But if you have a big baby, they'll grow out of it within like I don't know 8 months. It was such a fucking lifesaver, and I don't know if they have like if they have some kind of patent on it, but there's no other stroller that folds into a car seat. And it's not a this has got to stop. It's more of like a there needs to be more of this. That like I don't know why this is the
Create
only
this
one.
product more.
Because there needs to be one for big babies. I got a 1.5-year-old the size of a 3-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah. So, let's just, I don't know, include the big kids.
Include the big kids. Final segment. You better count your blessing.
Count your blessing. It's great.
Your blessing.
Russell, do you have a blessing?
I've been in tech for the show that I'm doing, and tech's going to be done soon. And I'm excited to be done with fucking tech. So, yeah, hopefully that's my blessing. It's not a great one, but
What's the show?
It's called The Imaginary Invalid off Broadway. It's a Moliere play.
We fucking did that play at Emerson.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's a new adaptation. It should be fun with the Red Bull Theater. Runs to June. I guess I'm plugging
Try
it.
saying that again.
What?
It will be fun. You said it in a way.
It'll be fun.
Well, I don't know when this is coming out. So
We're gonna have to
maybe
do
it was fun. Maybe it wasn't fun.
Despite what the New York Times said, it
Despite
was a
what the
lot
New
of
York
fun.
Oh,
Yes.
so June 29th, it's done. But we're having fun, and I'm almost out of tech. And then I'm just doing my plugs, I guess. Because I don't know when this is coming out. Come see Ginger Twinsies off
this is
Broadway.
after Blessings.
The Orpheum Theater. Sorry, I'm skipping, and you're done with me now. I'm good.
Great. My blessing, this is another one. I want to keep it vague. I don't think it's. So let's just say theoretically, an airline lost your bag.
Uh-huh.
And I don't
Are
know
you
if
protecting
I'm
the
allowed
airline?
to-
Who are you
no,
protecting?
I'm protecting
Yeah.
myself.
Oh.
From who?
I'll say it, and if we cut it out,
Okay.
you'll know it was good. I airline lost my bag for 3 days. Fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Just the worst. While I was in Nashville, and I went to a vintage store, and I got a nice shirt. It was a shirt. Fridays.
Yeah.
Do you know what this is?
Yeah.
This show.
Yes.
Yeah. And it felt fitting for today. And,
Absolutely.
And it was like, I don't know if the airline would theoretically be like, that was a lot for a shirt. So that vintage place, they broke it into 4 nice little separate items: shirt, shorts, shoes, and a belt.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, hey, and they're like, do you want to split it up into 4 things? I was like, oh yeah, great.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they know what they're doing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty
great.
sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so my blessing is it is it's in the past, but it was recent. I just was it last night? No, it was the night before that I got to do the Patrice O'Neill benefit.
Yes.
Which has
yes.
been like
How
a
cool.
like a dream of mine from
very
when I
cool.
was like started comedy,
Did you ever see Patrice live?
I never got to see him live. No.
Yeah, but you're a fan.
I was a fan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah, and it was like it was just cool to be there. It's one of those things as a comic where you're like, I've just always respected that era of comedy. I came up on that era of comedy, and it was like, I really wanted to kind of do well, and it was fun. I had a great set.
Where was it?
It was at the New York City Center.
New York City Center.
Yeah.
And what's the crowd like? Is it all over the map? Is it?
It's comedy fans. You know what I mean? Like just real comedy fans. And that just felt so good where it wasn't about like, where do these people land politically? What's the vibe? It wasn't, it just felt like they all came to laugh. They all love comedy. And that was it. I was a little worried that they would be comedy snobs.
Sure.
Because comedy snobs are tough,
Yeah, but you're
But
You're a real comic. You would do well still with Comedy Snobs.
everybody
I imagine.
feels it's like you feel like a real comic until you're surrounded by the people that you consider real comics.
Yeah.
And then you go like, I'm a fucking fraud.
Sure,
you know?
sure. I get that.
And it was like Bill was, standing at the side of the stage, and I didn't realize that he would be standing there.
Oh, really?
I thought everybody was going to like hang upstairs, and we weren't going to like watch each other.
Bill Cosby.
Yes. Yeah. He can't see, so that's good. He didn't know it was me. No, Burr.
Burr, yeah.
But he was on the side of the stage, and I was like, I felt
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
I would not want
No,
Bill Burr at
that's
this side of the
stressful.
station.
I was like, oh my God. But luckily, I was like so tired because we had the SNL party until like, I think I got home at 7 a.m.
Oh my God. From the last, like the finale.
from the finale.
Oh my God.
And Andy and Minna were out of town, so I got to go out the whole night. I
Yeah.
was home at 7 a.m. I had the brunch show at the Cellar because I hadn't been on stage in 3 weeks. And I was
And
like,
you want it before the Patrice O'Neill. That is
Yeah.
a rough weekend.
I was like, God damn, I hope this goes okay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But it went well. So that's a blessing, I gotta say.
That's so great.
That's a crazy 3-week break back into that.
Yeah.
That's a wild return.
Yeah.
Good for you. Where can people find you?
Oh, around. No, I'm Instagram and Threads and TikTok, Rosebud Baker. My YouTube, Rosebud Baker Stand Up. And definitely go check out my special, The Mother Load, which is on Netflix right now.
It's a phenomenal
It's a great
special.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, guys.
And Russell, you want to replug your place?
Yeah, at Russell J. Daniels on Instagram. And then come check out Ginger Twinsies off Broadway starting July 10th.
Join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. Exciting news coming to the downside soon. I'll probably be in Europe when this comes out. I'm sure there's still tickets for Milan.
You in Europe?
I'm in Europe June 1st to July 12th.
Wait, I'm going to be in Europe. We'll talk about it after.
I think I saw it. Where are you going to go?
Berlin, London,
Amazing.
Amsterdam.
Yeah, let me know.
And then Dublin at the end of the month.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We just had on Des.
Des Bishop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Des.
Des. That's really cool.
Yeah.
First time there? Doing stand-up?
No. I've done it in London and Amsterdam,
That's amazing.
but first time in Berlin and Dublin.
Dublin's amazing.
First time in
Berlin's
Dublin
amazing.
at all. Like I've never been.
Yeah, when I did it last year, Amsterdam was like, and the harder in terms of what felt like more foreign than not. It was like Amsterdam, Milan, and Barcelona were there. Dublin, you might as well do it. It's a state in America. It's amazing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
They know so much about our stuff.
Yeah.
It's such an unfair advantage we have. They come here, they talk about Dublin. I'm like, Prime Minister is what you have.
Yeah,
here?
what is that?
So yeah, find me there in Europe. I probably will announce the rest of this year's tour. Lots of great stuff coming up. And what's your favorite musical?
I would have to say Hedwig.
Hedwig. That's a beautiful show.
Hedwig is probably my favorite.
You know
musical.
Hedwig?
I don't know. I mean, I've heard of
Hedwig
it.
and the Angry Inch.
Yeah.
Would you play Hedwig? Would you want to try to do like?
I would love to play Hedwig.
yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. But I think it's, I think it's one of those.
I want to do Hedwig. 6 inches forward, 5 inches back. I got an angry inch. This is the downside.
That was a Headgum podcast.